Energy Espresso stands as a captivating gateway, merging the pulsating world of energy innovations with the deeply ingrained culture of coffee. Every episode serves as a fresh brew of ideas, featuring thought-provoking discussions on the latest in energy technologies, sustainability efforts, and the global transition towards greener alternatives. We invite energy experts, innovators, and thought leaders to share their insights and visions for a sustainable future. Energy Espresso is more than just a podcast. It's a community for those passionate about making a difference and those eager to learn more about the energy that powers our world and the coffee that fuels our days. So, join us on this journey and let's discover together the fascinating intersection of energy solutions and coffee culture, one episode at a time. The Energy Espresso Podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. Power is complicated, especially during the energy transition. Navigating the process can be confusing, expensive, and difficult to manage. AMP's diversified contract power generation fleet delivers fully managed power with mobile assets ranging from 35 megawatts through 2.5 megawatts, with the objective to provide a utility-like experience. Others call their service leased power or rental power. AMP refers to our service as turnkey contract power. If your organization is in need of temporary or long-term mobile generation for completions, drilling, production, compression, or in-field electrification projects, look no further. Our team is here to deliver excellence. Innovative power delivered so you can focus on business. Contact our team today to learn more. Let's talk power and get amped.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this week to the Energy Espresso. My name is Dave Bosco, and we're here actually in the newly established Upright Studio in the Heights. And very, very grateful this week to have some friends on with me. We've got Wayne Chmiel with Flanders, as well as also Walter Roman with Flanders as well. And guys, you arrived today. I appreciate you making it.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for the invitation, Dave.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, we're gonna get into Flanders and understand kind of about your business, but I usually like to start the conversation off with, understanding a little bit about, yourselves as individuals, your respective personal journeys, how you ended up landing at Flanders. But before we get there, on kind of the heels of a lot of, challenges, let's say, in infrastructure and things like that we've seen here in the city of Houston this past week, is that an area that Flanders is kind of involved in? Is anything with, infrastructure related, whether it's motors or generators that you guys support that are kind of involved in, infrastructure that would be established in the city?
Absolutely. In fact, we've got on our website, when these things happen, we quickly publish, if you need our help, we're here. All the pumps are driven by motors. Motors are our specialty. So we absolutely are here to help with that with 24/7, 365 service all across the country and the globe, as a matter of fact. So yeah, often we do work for municipalities. We'll have agreements for them as well. So
really?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
We might actually be helping here right now.
That's super cool.
We actually have a workshop in Longview. So we're close.
Up in East Texas in the Piney Woods.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. Very nice. So want to go ahead and get the conversation energized before we get into this conversation I'm very, very excited about. Walter, you were gracious enough to go ahead and actually bring a coffee for the podcast today. And I'll tell you what, my wife has been trying to get me to do this mind reading trick our whole marriage. But apparently, your wife, Diana, has kind of, showed you something that she needs to share with my wife, Krista. So cheers, and let's try the coffee, get energized, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about it. Sure.
So as you know, Dave just arrived to Houston.
Yep.
And I'm coming from my country, right, from Peru. So thinking about the Energy Espresso, we were thinking with Diana, what do we bring to the podcast? So we said, let's bring some Peruvian coffee. And let's bring something special, something from a rural community up in the mountains of Cusco. Cusco was the center of the Incas Empire. So there is, the energy, I even feel there.
Mm-hmm.
So we found it and, it's here with us. It's, again, a pleasure to be here. I hope you enjoy the coffee and the conversation. Thanks for the invitation again.
Absolutely. No, it's delicious. And I appreciate you kind of opening up the conversation piece about the, kind of Peruvian culture and the history there when it comes to, ancient practices of using coffee, from some understanding that I have, besides giving you energy, it helps with acclimating to like high altitudes, right? Because it opens up your circulatory system, allows oxygen to flow better through your blood. Is that accurate? On kind of, that was one of the reasons they use it?
What I would say is that, in millennial cultures, we use a lot of what nature provides to us. So for, high altitude health issues, you would use coca leaves. That's perfect, right? So I'm not really aware of how coffee was used by the Incas, but I'm sure they used some way. And what I can tell you is that it was surprising for me, these small rural communities or all these farmers, very small farmers, sometimes they make the best coffee of the world, actually recognized by, certain organizations. I was trying to find you the best coffee of the world. I couldn't, but I brought you some from a rural community up in the mountains of Peru.
I love it. Wayne, I don't know about you, but it doesn't have any bitterness to it. It's super smooth, has a great flavor profile. What's your thoughts?
Oh, it's awesome. Yes. I've been up there. Walter knows how much I love Peru and Cusco, and there is the energy. This just reminds me of it. Sat there in Cusco drinking coffee like this. It's just a very nice feeling.
It's delicious. Yeah. Delicious. Well, we'll get started and kind of kick it off with Wayne. So, Wayne, we'd like to, get started with understanding, what is kind of your morning Kickstarter routine that you go through to get ready for the day? What kind of gets you out of bed and gets you ready for work?
Well, Dave, I got a lot of energy, much like you. So when I wake up, my eyes, I usually sleep with the windows open, the drapes open. And when the sun comes in or starts to peek up, I'm up and ready to go. First thing on my mind is, what do we got to do to tear into today? I just love the mornings. Get up. I love coffee. Go make myself some good coffee. I used to live in Amsterdam and work in Finland and Sweden. They drink a lot of coffee there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a real nice espresso machine. Make a cup of coffee, take it out to the yoga mat. If it's nice weather, I sit outside on that thing, drink that cup of coffee, put it down and start doing a little bit of yoga, warm up the old body and mind for the day ahead. It's a great way to start the morning.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And would you say espresso is kind of like your preference, or do you have multiple different types of coffees that you prefer?
So in the afternoon, I like an espresso. In the morning, I'll have maybe you call it a long black if you're in Australia.
Yeah.
An Americano here, kind of a short Americano.
Okay.
Don't like to dilute it with too much water. Love that flavor.
Sure. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And, I guess we can get over to Walter, and then I want to kind of get into each of your respective backgrounds. Walter, what's your morning Kickstarter and coffee beverage and way you like to get going?
Sure. So I start my morning with meditation. I do meditation about 20 minutes per day. And after that, I take a cold shower.
Okay.
Some pull-up bars after that. And my favorite coffee is coffee with milk. I grew up in a farm.
Okay.
So, we had plenty of milk. So I drink milk every day with coffee.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And meditating and kind of getting in that spiritual and mental mindset, right? With, yourself doing yoga, you meditating, Walter, and kind of getting, I call it physically, mentally, and spiritually fit before you get the day started. That's a great way to get energized as well and kind of get that center of gravity, because we all got high stress jobs, right? You need to make sure that when you're getting out there and going to slay, you're ready for it.
Yeah, it's important.
So Walter, you had shared about your, kind of morning Kickstarter. We'll continue with you before getting over to Wayne. What's your respective background on how you got into the electric motor business, came over to Flanders, You and I, we've got a personal relationship. We go back many years, but just kind of lay out for me, what's your early career, kind of how did you transition into this industry and end up at Flanders?
Sure, Dave. Yeah, so as I told you guys before, I'm Peruvian. So I grew up in Peru. I am an industrial engineer. So I started my career with a Caterpillar dealer down there in Peru, doing everything, from administrative work to performance studies for mining trucks and doing TCO calculations. So 14 years with them, pretty cool experience. And then I decided to come to the US to do my MBA. I went to University of Michigan, which was a blaze for me.
Go Big Blue.
Yeah, Big Blue. After that, I worked for a little bit with CAT here in the US. And then I entered MTU, Full Voice Power Systems, and I met you there. So 5 years there, living in different places in Michigan, in Brazil, Sao Paulo, then Houston. Pretty cool experience. I was there commercial manager for Latin America, mining, then moved into oil and gas. And very fast after that, I moved to Flanders. I got the invitation from John, Wayne, and Peter. So I have now 2.5 years with Flanders. I'm director of business development for mining.
Okay.
Also helping with oil and gas. And just enjoying the journey.
I love it. And we're going to get into a little bit more about kind of the parallels that I see, at least. And I think you would share this view, Walter, not speaking for you, that, mining is actually like a model that oil and gas can kind of aspire to when it comes to efficiency and the way that those whole operations are managed. And we'll get more into that. But I appreciate you doing that, kind of sharing your personal journey and how you got here. Wayne, I've known you for a couple of years and would love to know kind of, you share kind of how you got started, got into, the business, ended up at Flanders, and kind of share your journey with us, man.
Well, sure. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I'm from the Wisconsin area. And Wisconsin, if you look at the state flag, there's a miner on it. There's ingots on it. And there's a pickaxe.
Yep.
And there's also a badger, and the badger is the state animal. A lot of people think that's because there's a lot of badgers running around, but it's actually because the miners, when they would come out of the lead and tin mines, they'd say they look tough like badgers. So I was in this area. Milwaukee used to be mining headquarters of the world, with Nordberg for the crushers and P&H and Bucyrus for the shovels and many other players around there.
Sure.
So, I guess it's not unnatural that I would end up in mining. I'm a mechanical engineer from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, Badgers again.
Yeah.
And I ended up in mining. From mining, where you mentioned, 24/7, 365, I just loved it, working with all the people. I started out as an engineer, and they kept bringing me in front of customers. It was a natural place for me to go. And I ended up working through many of those big OEMs. Invited to different positions, and it just was so exciting to be part of mining. How would I imagine leaving it, right? One of the companies that worked with Bucyrus, or Bucyrus was aware of in the day before it was acquired by CAT, was in fact Flanders.
Okay.
So we've known about Flanders, and when John Oliver, the executive chairman, went on over from the very start for the acquisition, I'd already been in contact with him. That's the thing about mining.
Yep.
It's a small community. You stay connected.
Definitely.
And he invited me on over early on. And of course, I accepted. And it's truly just been a pleasure. I can't imagine people being as fortunate as I am, or anybody in mining, with so many of these other industries like ours. This oil and gas, the energy sector, it's so similar.
Yes.
It's just a blessing to be around these kind of places that respect long-term relationships, and you're really helping the world who might not really be appreciating you. You got a lot of aid thrown at you, and yet the people in it really understand we're all doing this to help everybody.
Absolutely. No, it's the mining, oil and gas. I bucket the two together into energy, because if you look at copper, for example, that is one of the biggest drivers, I think, in mining today, and rare earth minerals. It is what, is propelling everybody into this electrification age that we have right now, there's more copper that's needed than anything else. So I think people have to really realize, look, there's broad strokes have been painted about energy mining. And in my opinion, I think you look at the sustainability efforts, because it's important for us, I think, in our industries to talk about the sustainable practices. And I want to get into understanding a little bit more about what you guys are doing at Flanders from sustainability. Before we touch there, Wayne, you're leading commercial for Flanders. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm the chief commercial officer, which includes your normal sales aspects, but the product development as well, these areas for business development, bringing those, what is it that we need to bring to fruition here?
Yep. So looking at new products, new technology solutions, you and Walter are probably geeking out, I would say.
Absolutely.
And that's fun too, right? That's one thing I think that most people paint commercial folks with, just like, hey, they're the guy that ends up showing up and buying drinks and all these other things. But, the way I look at it, commercial folks are close to the customer. You listen, kind of take their feedback, feed it through the system and go, guys, is there something we're missing here that we can commercialize and help a customer out, right? To your point.
Oh, absolutely, Dave. I also have an MBA and a mechanical engineering degree at a good school. And it's funny how people look at sales folks.
Yeah.
But it's really important job because we're the voice of the customer in that organization. And so we actually have to translate, maybe not into Spanish or these other languages, although sometimes, but we have to be able to talk to the engineers so that they understand what's important to the customer, and over to the finance and why we need these kind of terms for payment, and then on over to the manufacturing and quality and delivery. It's so we're really more integral than people think. But of course, we'll be happy to buy people drinks if they want.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing. Coffee's good too. So something that maybe you could kind of take this question, Wayne. I'll leave it to you guys, kind of divide and conquer here, but. For those not familiar with Flanders, what's your two-minute elevator pitch on kind of what your business does and help people understand? You touched earlier about, motors and things of that sort. Love for you to kind of expound upon that.
Well, I think Walter might want to take a first pass at that, and I add a little color after if you don't want.
I can do that.
I love it.
I describe ourselves as a technology company for industrial applications, mining, oil and gas. What we do is we improve customer assets, taking out the best of them. So we do upgrades, for example, usually taking equipment beyond what the OEM provides.
Okay.
And we have this capability that I think it's unique. We can take control of any production equipment. So meaning we go to, let's say, a drill or a shovel or a drag line. We pull out the brain of that machine and we install our brain. It's like changing, Windows in your computer for Linux.
Yeah.
And we do that. So as you can imagine, it's not easy.
Sure.
And customers have the confidence, they trust us. We do that for a living. So that's the technology piece. For sure, we started as a motor repair company 76 years ago, but we have evolved, and now we are a truly technology company helping customers to get the best out of their equipment. You want to add more color?
Yeah, just a little fun. So, yeah, we really have a very wide array of offerings, from motor repair, field install and services there, to custom motor manufacture, to motor storage, to extended warranties, and to certain, we'll call it systems integration.
Okay.
And also on top of that, you could come to us and say, listen, we would like you to white label or manufacture for us. We'll do panel work. We're in things such as the internet space with the high-speed internet boxes. So we just do a lot of different things that connect here. But in kind of a fun way, I'd say often you could look at us as the remedy to the OEM.
I like it.
So if you have OEM products and you're trying to take it to the next level or get them to work in collaboration with one another,
sure,
come to us, because we don't care any brand, any product. You tell us what you got, we'll figure out how we can make it work together.
I love it. If I could synthesize that into 2 words, it'd be like agnostic optimization.
Yeah.
Is what you guys do. That's really cool.
Well said.
That's really cool. And, the AI piece of this, if I'm understanding where, Walter, you touch on kind of the brains, right? That's something that you guys have been getting involved with. I've heard about some technologies out there, Aardvark, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of the drill, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have kind of like gotten into. Since we're on that topic, do you guys want to talk about that? Because I think that's actually something that's very timely with, folks in energy, oil and gas mining. You want to remove the human being from an HSE perspective, exhaustion that happens, safety concerns that end up coming up, and humans, we don't make decisions as quickly as machines do, right? Can you maybe expound upon that a little bit for me?
Yeah, sure. So Aardvark, what's Aardvark? It's our autonomous solution for mining and drilling.
Okay.
So what we do is, again, depending on the machine, as you correctly said, we are agnostic. So we can work on any machine. And we pull out the brain, install our system, take control, and automate equipment so that you don't need an operator working in the equipment. You have kind of a supervisor controlling 4 to 6 machines. And the goal of this optimization is to make the system more productive. We improve productivity up to 30% to make the whole operation safer. So you're removing a human being from the line of fire, right? Sometimes you are drilling at the edge of the bank, and that's a pretty tough spot to be, right?
Sure.
You're removing a person from that situation, and that's pretty important. We also help the environment. Multiple customers have told the industry that we reduce fuel consumption, even in diesel, particularly in diesel drills, by 7 to 8% just by automating them.
Wow.
So we are the leaders globally. We have more than 150 installations, more than 27 mines around it.
That's fantastic.
And some more fun to that is we do this in some of the most remote places in the world, in the jungles of Brazil, in the deserts, if you will, of Chile. We're all over the place.
Mountains of Peru.
The mountains of Peru. That is right.
Yeah.
And, you really end up helping people. Their job becomes more of a technology job, the supervisor. They can be, one lady, she was expecting near birth time, and she was still able to show up to work in a nice air-conditioned office, park the car close by, walk in, and the equipment's miles away with the screen. So we're really helping people safer, helping the environment. It's really, really fun. And in case people don't know, some of your listeners, the drilling, we take these rotary blast hole drills and we drill holes to the earth, and then it gets filled with AMPHO or dynamited, if you will, that it gets exploded, and that makes it so the excavators can come dig it easier. So one of the key operations, especially for hard rock mining, where you get the copper and such, is that you need to drill and blast it so that you can excavate it. So it's really an essential operation for all those mines.
So that's how you're creating the pay dirt, for lack of a better term.
Amen.
That's super cool. That's super cool. And for you guys look, may not be like super well known as a company such as Caterpillar, right? Those are obviously very big OEMs, but for a business like yourself to be able to develop that technology and be the leader in the market, that's pretty fantastic. And what are you guys doing to kind of take, because my mind starts going wild, like how does that then get replicated to multiple other vertical markets, applications, whether it's mining, oil and gas applications, power generation, marine, those same value adds that y'all are bringing are resonating with every single industry today, right? Yeah,
maybe if I could talk about the mining piece on the drill, Walter, you could talk about how it helps in the oil and gas and energy. I would say that for little old Flanders to do this, top notch, we're the leaders in the world, and we've surpassed those big companies. And I worked at those big ones, these will be brands everybody knows.
Yep.
The reason is because we have this customer intimacy focus. And we're not constrained by all these other large platforms that are trying to serve everybody. The counter to everybody is intimacy.
Sure.
And so we get really specialized, and we really think we call that the bench. We're the king of the work on the bench, the leaders of that bench, the drilling bench. And because of that customer intimacy, we can work, and that's part of why I love the job. We work very closely, and we can move faster because we're not trying to be everything to anybody. And I think that same approach, philosophy, and way of working translates to other spaces. Walter?
Yeah, exactly. And more than bringing one solution to another market, we develop solutions for the specific application. So one big differentiator of what Flanders does is that, in mining, oil and gas, I would say, and other industries, you will find that some OEMs, they bring, for example, industrial drives to mine, to use it for a shovel, for example. And that works for sure. But that drive isn't designed to work in a mining application. So we actually design drives for mining, and they last longer, 50%, 100%.
Wow.
So we do the same. It's the same approach for oil and gas. We have been discussing about e-frac applications with motors and drives and all these things. And we are thinking to bring our hybrid solutions to oil and gas as well. So it's about really knowing the application. For us, it's very important to know the application. That's what really differentiates us from the rest. And while understanding this application, we match the need with our capability and technologies.
That's super slick, man. And having that ability to, hone in on the voice of the customer, the voice of the engineer, the voice of the mechanic that has to live with it in the field, right? That's really important. I think that's where, in my experience, a lot of big OEMs have gone wrong, is they're like, what's for mass scale? Where can we take things off the shelf that have a lower dollar value to manufacture, creates dollar figures in the future from a, maintenance OpEx, perspective, right? Like, let's not fool ourselves. Like, they got a strategy,
Right.
And look, I respect it heavily. I'm a huge capitalist, but I think the customers in the industries that we're talking about today are going, hey, look, you've kind of had a lot of time to develop technologies that are leapfrogging where we're currently at. And it's really, really refreshing that an agile business like yourself is able to develop and come to market with these technologies and be leading the pack. I think it's really, really cool.
It's great. I think you hit on it. When I make presentations at conferences, I usually wear my boots. I usually have this old bag here, Dave. This thing's been around all over the world.
I like it.
Because it's got a little scratched up, but it all happens in the dirt, so to speak.
Yes.
It's not on the spreadsheet. It's not in the office or in the room where the corporate guys, okay, I'm corporate too, are saying, here's this or here's that plan. It happens in the dirt.
Yep.
And that's why we can do it. We sell direct. We don't go through other agents. It's us. We're right there, right next to the customer. We pride ourselves on that. It's fun.
It's really cool.
We enjoy it.
And then outside of the manufacturing, you guys service and support it too, right? So you've got that close connection post delivery of a solution to a customer to probably monitor it, recognize where, hey, there's some tweaks that need to be made, or is that something you can talk about? Because like the digital piece of this, once you deliver an aardvark or another piece of equipment, how do you guys support it after the fact without having a human being sitting right there watching what's going on?
Well, we've got a few different things that connect to what you're laying down there. One of the areas we have is this remote access for the big drag lines.
Okay.
And we can tap into that big drag line. A drag line is the biggest excavator you'll see in a mine. And remotely, we can access and see how everything's performing. Again, for safe environment, 24/7. We've got sensors that will signal us. They go through AI, come back, so we can predict, is this about to fail? We've caught a lot of failures that way. So that can go right to your phone, ping and get out there. And other times it's just the cell phone. I got a call last night. It's 8:00 at night, 9:30, 9:45 before it was done. And it was somebody who has a ball mill, the motor went down. So after you excavate that dirt and the ore, and start to process it. It goes into the ball mill to process and break it down. Combustion, we call that. Well, that giant motor went out. So, okay, we need it now. Now the mine's in trouble.
Because that's critical to the operation.
Critical to the operation, and all the rest, the whole production line, so to speak, is held up.
Yep.
So you need help now. I was on with the executive chairman last night and the heads of other departments coordinating, saying, okay, we got to get this to the front of the line for this customer. How can we get this repair out there? And, well, my wife says, geez, Wayne, why are you always having to do that? But it's rewarding. People need us and we're there for it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't one guy on the phone that I called to complain. They all said, okay, let's go. This is where we shine. Those are some of the ways we help the customers and serve them.
That's awesome, man. And, other businesses, let's face it, larger OEMs, they go like, told you, keep a spare motor on the shelf. And it's like, oh, geez, it's like, yeah, I'm like, you fucking get more things. Yeah. Come on, man. I got operations that are down here. I mean, that going above and beyond. And, look, anybody can poke somebody in the eye, but that person doesn't want to hear that statement right then and there. All they want to know is, how are you going to help me? Right.
And just right away, let's do it now and walk you right through. Another fun one maybe for the listeners is, this was a couple of years ago, but we got a call and there's a 65,000 horsepower motor that we were asked to help. That's for Ames Research.
That's Dad's motor. That's big.
Yeah, big. And that's so, like the Boeings will rent this out. So it's a full-size wind tunnel for the planes.
Wow.
That this drives. So, one of the things Flanders is really, called upon is when you really need it, when it's critical, mission critical, everything's depending on it, we're your guys.
That's awesome. And something that Walter, for folks that are not familiar with electric motors, right? Because at least in the oil and gas energy industry, I think everybody knows what an electric motor maybe is.
Sure.
It's not normal that they fail. I mean, they do fail, but what do you guys usually see from a life perspective off of a motor?
In a tough application like mining, oil and gas, 30,000 hours minimum. We have motors that are running 60,000 hours or more.
Oh, so that's awesome.
Yeah. It depends on your approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, again, design for the application. So whatever you want to reach, just tell us, we will design something for you.
That's killer. Something, since we're kind of on this, development topic and also automation, electric motors, you guys had done a press release a little while back about a hybrid mining truck.
Yeah.
Is that something you can unpack for me? Some details on that?
Yeah, sure. It's public information. So we are in this decarbonization, electrification wave, right? Many industries, not only mining, oil and gas, many industries. And when thinking about how we can help the industry, we said there are going to be different solutions. We want to be the most effective, right? And one of the solutions that OEMs are promoting is to replace their customers' fleet with new equipment, new 100% battery equipment. And we said, that's cool. We can also do that, But what happens with the current equipment, the current fleet? There are about 10,000 ultra-class trucks running around the world, right? Wow. And you don't want to replace them like this, right? Imagine all the CO2 you're going to produce by manufacturing 10,000 fracs. So what we said is we need to help the customer in a different way. And we said we need to think about a retrofit kit to electrify those trucks step by step. And the first step to take a truck to a fully electric truck is to hybridize it.
Okay.
So what do we mean with hybridizing? We actually install batteries to the truck. So a truck works with a diesel engine and also with electric motors. What happens when a truck is going down the hill is that energy is being produced instead of consumed, and that energy is burned through a grid blower. And that's wasting energy, right?
Yep.
So what we do is we install a battery and a lot more stuff, and we recuperate that energy. Instead of burning the energy, we take the energy to the battery, and then we use it when needed. For example, going uphill load. And what we have seen as of now in our studies is about 30% fuel consumption reduction, which means, about 30% of CO2 reduction as well. Actually, more than that, because at the same time, we make the truck faster, which means that the truck is more productive.
So you're getting efficiency not only from a fuel consumption and like load point operating on the engine, but the actual work product at the end of the day. Like, I mean, are you guys just selling these kits or are you doing subscriptions on them? Because that just subscription. I'm like, there's got to be a delta here that you can take some of that. I mean, but at the end of the day, that's pretty awesome. And I mean, like, what do you see as a useful life on a mine truck? Because outside of the engine, wheel motors, and things of that sort, like the frame, it doesn't just go bad after 10 years, right?
Well, the frame can go bad after 10 years, but we have these. So they'll have what they call glider kits.
Okay,
but you can bring these different things in, and then you weld up the little cracks in the frame, etc. So depending on it's at the same truck. It's like the old grandpa's hatchet, right? You got a new head. 2 new heads and 1 new handle. These things can keep going a lot longer and longer. And I think the other piece of this great story about the hybrid is, we're burning less fuel and we're saving greenhouse gas emissions. So you save money on the fuel. But the real way mines work is it's a commodity. Gold, copper, coal, those are all commodities. Said another way, it's all about how cheaply you can make it. What's the cost per ton?
Yep.
So we're able to take, and in mining, they talk about cost per ton with the cost value of money. So they call that net present value dollar per ton, NPV dollar per ton.
Mm-hmm.
So very analytical way to look at it, appropriate. We help, in addition to the carbon reduction, it's an NPV enhancer.
Yeah.
We help you make that commodity cheaper by going faster, more efficient, lasting longer, as you talked about the sweet spot on the engine. With our solution, we can hone in to where that sweet spot on the engine, on the fuel curve, on the fuel map, so that where the engine is most efficient, we can hover there. We can do things like start, stop. So you imagine you all have those in your vehicles nowadays. The new vehicles have start, stop. But if you're in a haul truck, you have to wait for that the turbocharger to spin down.
Sure.
And that time there can be, you don't want to start and stop that. Like at a stoplight, if you were to creep forward, the start stop on a car doesn't have much problems. In a haul truck with that big turbo spin down, it could be 3 minutes.
Sure.
With our hybrid solution, once the engine's off, we can stay and creep with that big, with the battery power. You can imagine it's also quieter. If you're pulling it into a shop, you could tram in. So there's just layer upon layer of ways that this solution helps the environment, the NPV dollar per ton. Anybody that's buying a commodity gets it cheaper.
Yep.
It's safer. How can it be safer? If you have to work on that equipment less because the engine life goes out, there's again less time. There's a suspended load. It's just really a wonderful thing. How many ways this is an improvement to the operations.
Yeah, and it relates to what you said before. So start-stop technology.
Yep.
How many areas have you seen that in your car?
Long time.
Mining. I would say there are, 10, 15 trucks with the start-stop running in the world. So, some companies are not motivated to bring those technologies, even though they exist with the market, right?
Sure.
We are the company motivated.
That's awesome.
Those technologies.
The remedy to the OEM.
Yeah, and the engine manufacturers, they must be like, gosh darn it, they're killing my revenue on my injectors and cylinder kits.
They don't like that idea.
No, but I mean, the missed opportunity rate, that comes with that, right? What does it cost to have a truck go down, have an engine swung? You start looking at this holistically and the accretive value on outside of just looking at, which is really important, the environmental benefits, performance benefits. Like, seems like this is a multi-layered kind of value proposition that you guys are putting in front of the market.
It is. You bring in an important point there, Dave. The other thing that's really elegant about our solution for the haul trucks that will translate to the energy sector is in its failure mode, we've got this booster motor on this hybrid. And in its failure mode, if that booster motor were to stop working,
Okay.
The truck works as if it was always there.
Really?
So you're able to try this new technology without great risk. Some of the other solutions where it's all pure battery, et cetera, if that fails, that's your only mode to move. And now you've got this thing stuck on the haul road or under the shovel, and now you got some dramas. And it's really hard to get well-trained people in the field where you get your hands dirty. That's why I'm so proud of growing up wearing boots and been out there in the dirt all the time. So we help so the failure mode isn't that problematic one. And by our solution, this agnostic solution, which can go on multiple OEMs, you train once on ours, so the troubleshooting gets way easier. So, it's really hard to find technicians, let's say mechanical. It's even harder to find electrical ones.
Believe you me.
And it's even harder to find those that can troubleshoot. And then even more on the real new technology that's all new to them. By working with this, when they're trained up on one, it's going to work on all of them. So it's a real headache saver in today's challenges for operations. And all that kind of approach translates to the energy industry as well. They have the same problems.
Yeah.
How do you see that? How do you see that kind of tying in, Walter? I mean, what are you seeing right now on the technology front with what you guys have done with Aardvark, what you're doing with the hybrid mining truck? There's optimization, AI, autonomy built in. Like those are literally, you listen to Sarah Week that was a couple of months ago, every single major Fortune 500 CEO, all the blue chips that are out there, it is like a script of language that is being spoken, and it hits on every single one of those points.
Yeah. And we translate those needs to realities, right? So just for give you an example, here, not only in mining, oil and gas and other applications, you will have still a lot of diesel engines running transmissions, running pumps, mechanical stuff. And in some of those applications, you will have peak power needs. And you may have 2 diesel engines running to match the peak power need. But when you don't need that amount of power, you will still have those 2 diesel engines running all the time.
Okay.
So you're basically wasting energy, right? So what you can do with, electrification with generators, you can have 2 generators providing the same peak power we need, but you can shut down one when the power is not needed. So the system becomes a lot more efficient. When possible, you add batteries to the equation and then you regenerate. But overall, again, our goal is to make the system more efficient, and we can do it for marine applications, for oil and gas, for mining. So that's our strategy. That's how we bring our solutions to different markets.
That's super cool. What are you seeing? There's a lot of electric motors kind of going back to your guys' core business, which is electric motors. When you started the company almost 80 years ago, what are you seeing in the midstream gas compression space that might be interesting for you? Because I've been seeing, at least in my business, a very, very large transition where you usually would have reciprocating engines or gas turbines that are the prime mover, driving that compressor, right? And over the past number of years, and it's happened for a good while, but there's a bigger adoption of that where motors are replacing those. Are you seeing that as a space? So you guys are focusing on bringing solutions to the market?
Yeah, exactly. We're now, I would say, focusing more on Texas particularly.
Okay.
And we're bringing all this knowledge that we gained over the years to oil and gas. So we definitely see a lot more electric motors running in oil and gas. This electrification wave is not going to stop anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So there are multiple opportunities for us, and we're happy to have the knowledge, the expertise, and the people, boots on ground, as Wayne says. So we're definitely bringing these technologies to the oil and gas market.
In fact, we've moved Walter from Peru now to Houston. We've moved his boots down here to Houston, or up here to Houston from Peru.
I love it, and I'm glad that you're back in town, mate. It's awesome. On the with customers that, and my mind kind of goes to, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've got a monitoring solution that is specific to electric motors, right? Is that the
Wisdom.
Wisdom? Okay. How does that, because that's one thing I think, introducing new technologies, getting customers comfortable with that, right? Like, whether it's a gas recip engine, a turbine, they can look at a dashboard and go, I'm seeing oil pressure go down, and they know something's wrong, right? How are you using these technologies to get people comfortable and quantify with digital solutions that they've got high reliability, high availability, there's tons of life left in that motor, let it sit in the frame and chug away?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. So, with today's sensors, you can measure things like temperature and vibration, all sorts of things, current, et cetera. And I would compare what we do to some others in the way it really comes to fruition, the bringing it to reality, as Walter said moments earlier. The nice thing about us, and I'll get into how we do it in a second here, but once we see it, we can engage right away. So if we're serving you and we're supporting you, we see that we've got technology experts, vibration experts, vibration technicians that are familiar with this. We run it through AI, big numbers there that come back with some sort of identifications. But then our guys who know your operations look at this. We can send that signal, that little map to your phone, everything. But we already know, what, we better get a bearing ready. Let's get that truck loaded up. It's happening now. Or we're going to call them in the morning. We get the quote right out to you. We say, hey, look, think you got a couple days. Can we get in there tomorrow? Or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
You got a shutdown next week. Hey, let's get on this. Do you agree? So instead of just letting you know or putting it in your basket, we all get a ton of emails. We don't need more emails.
Sure.
We can start to take those proactive steps to give you that support right from the start. The reason you put the sensor on was you wanted us to help you get out in front of it.
Totally.
Don't send it just an email. Let's get out in front of it.
I love it. It's taking data and making it actionable. And that's where I've seen a lot of companies go wrong is they outfit a device on a piece of equipment. And it's like, yeah, you can see it on the internet. And it's like, fantastic. I could also be sitting literally in front of the piece of equipment looking at it. But what do I do with that information? Yeah, importantly, what do you do as the OEM to make sure that I'm backed up, right? Because I look at that data as an underwriting, knowing that, hey, you've got zero excuses why there should not be a component sitting on the shelf. What your population is, how many hours, I've gotten into, ran down some rabbit holes on this one, Walter, but all the data's there. Use it. I love the fact you guys are doing that.
That's a very good comment to make. All the data is there, but a lot of companies are not sharing the data. That's a big differentiator from Flanders. Once you install our system, all your data is yours, actually yours.
Yeah.
We don't tell you, oh, sorry, guys, this is a black box. We cannot share this. No, we don't tell you that. Everything is yours. We can work with it. If you ask us, we do the AI or whatever you need. If you want to work with it, because particularly mining, a lot of companies, they have big analytics team.
Sure.
And they do their own stuff, right? And these guys would really want to get the data. And most of the times they cannot. But once they install Freedom, that's how we call our system.
Okay.
You may relate to the name, right?
I like it. Yeah.
So you actually get the freedom to get all your data and analyze it and use it however you think appropriate.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing also because just speaking from my experience in business and way me and my partner run ours, it's transparency, right?
Absolutely.
You gotta have transparency because you just nobody feels good at the end of the day going I think something's being left out here.
Yeah. I like to say freedom for a sustainable future.
Yes.
You can't sustain this where everything's hidden from you. That's not sustainable. And the word freedom is our brand trademark, but we haven't really invested enough to get that message out. So you're going to hear us talk about freedom more. It's freedom for you to go. Which way do you want to go? And the other thing you mentioned here about this layered solutions, I think that also connects here because I was on the flight this morning from Milwaukee to come here. And we had to get off the plane. They taxied out, come back because of the weather. And I'm waiting to get my flight checked. Do I rebook? I want to make sure I could be here in time for this wonderful podcast.
Yeah.
And she goes, before we get up there, just check your phones and use the app. of course, the app said, "You're on the plane still, Wayne." We never took off. So, of course, I wasn't able to change it.
Yeah, there's a flaw here.
There's a flaw here. And that's the layered solution we provide. This pendulum, we want to go, we see solution providers go from the human who's the real, skilled, talented artisan to just use the computer. No, we're going to use the computer. We still have the artisan. Now we signal him and we look at that on top of what the signal is and give you something that's real and practical. Like the help I needed in line. Please get me a ticket so I can get over here to see Dave and be on the podcast. Don't tell me I should be able to do it on the phone alone. It's not always so simple. So these layered solutions do give you freedom to make good choices and better choices. And you're the one that gets to choose. You're the customer.
That's super cool. I love your guys' business strategy. And I think that's, with any organization, if you're a manufacturer of a widget to a service company, like understanding what keeps your customer up at night, where can you add value? Where can you do things differently from an experience? Because that's really what it comes down to after that product goes out the door, is every piece of interaction with you as an OEM or a solutions provider, it's all about the experience. Right. And it's like, that's why customers end up coming back. And I would assume that's why you guys end up having these like multifaceted, evolution of relationships with your customers that go from the motor to the, hybrid solution, the automation solution. That's really cool. It's, you don't see that a lot of businesses, especially that are, 80 years old, right? You usually kind of get steadfast in your ways. It's like, hey, we do X, but you don't evolve with the market.
Right. And then those that are global, as we are, tend to have to be too big to do that. No, we're very, very proud of this customer industry. The other day I was on a Teams call and I was very surprised out of the blue. I see a fellow, I hadn't seen him in probably 15 years. And he said, "Wayne Chmiel, the last time I was with you, we were out in the dirt and we were out of mine and you helped me with this problem." And he remembered a very small kindness I had extended him. And then, of course, on Teams, you can't always see everybody's face perfectly, right?
Yeah.
So I know who you are there. And that's the kind of reason you asked earlier here, what gets you up in the morning? That's what you want to do. You want to bring value to the people you're working with every day. And it's a pleasure to help people.
It is. I love it, man. Those little random interactions you get with folks that you helped sometime in your career and they remember it. It's impactful. So that's super cool. I want to get on to, I guess, maybe just a little bit more on understanding about Flanders as a business. So you had brought up, you guys are a global company. You'd mentioned South America, United States. What locations globally do you guys have installed base and service capabilities in, for folks that may not be 100% familiar with that?
We're everywhere where it's mining, except Russia. I don't think anybody wants to hear Russia.
Russia and China, we're not. But
but Australia, both sides of Australia, west, South Africa.
Okay.
Covering Africa from South Africa, Botswana.
Wow.
South America, Brazil, Peru, Chile. North America, Mexico, the US for sure, Canada.
Wow. Did you add Brazil already?
Brazil. Yeah, I think I said Brazil.
So you're in all major continents.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Where there's mining, we're there. And in addition to where we've got our regional service centers, we fly people everywhere, right? We'll put our people there and we'll put them on the camp. We have people spread out everywhere and we'll invest in putting people there. We're talking about Zambia now. If someone says, "Hey, we really want to start working with you," great. We can do that. We like doing that.
We're going to DRC.
That's right.
Interesting.
The Congo.
Yeah, we're doing interesting. But
I was very cool trip.
Yeah. And we'll be there with our customer.
That's awesome. You brought up the employees. How many employees total are globally throughout your organization?
Probably about 850.
Wow. It's a good sized business.
Yeah. And we really do care deeply about them. It's not easy when you're a global company and times go up and down, coal goes up and down. There's a lot to do. So we try to really work with our customers by being transparent. And we take that same approach with our own employees. Tell them what's going on, share with them the challenges we're having so we can all pull together, and people appreciate that.
I love that. That kind of gets me into, as we're kind of getting into the wrap up of the discussion and podcast, kind of management styles. That's something I always like to talk about with leadership and leaders inside of organizations. And since we're already on that topic with you, Wayne, start with you. You know, what do you see as kind of your management style and leadership style to, you know, get the best, obviously, performance out of your team, but recognizing their people too?
Yeah. So my MBA was in leadership.
Okay.
That was before it was happening to do that. I really learned a lot in that, but working with teams around the world, living in other places and working with the teams, it really taught me about the importance of diversity.
Yep.
And I don't mean it like a buzzword that I mean, the truth is there's lots of ways to look at a problem.
Yep.
And if you get the right team, you won't miss things if you listen to one another. So I like to empower the team as much as possible. I like to be very transparent, clear communication. You go through all that list, but the truth is you got to have fun while you're doing it. And if you build a team that has passion, that really understands the value of teamwork, we help each other, you're not working every day, you're having fun. No matter what the storm, sure, in the sun or in the storm, you're having fun. And that just gets a whole lot of winning going on. And there's nothing like a winning team to make a team happy.
I love it. I love it. That is, that's refreshing to hear because, you know, a lot of other leaders I've had on my podcast, very similar DNA, I would say. And that's what I always see in very, very successful individuals is kind of, you know, trusting your people, support the hell out of them, and just make sure that everybody feels good about what they're doing. That's fantastic, man. And that must be pretty, you know, I can remember it, you know, days when, you know, we were doing kind of international business in a big corporation, Walter. It can be tasking too, kind of syncing up like the time zones, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. Walter, how about yourself? You know, what is, you know, with you kind of building in these markets and trying to find new areas that you guys can enter into, what are some of the management and leadership styles that kind of make you successful with teams?
So what I would add to what Wayne said is something we discussed, you know, when we were working together, that doesn't happen so frequently. You know, the best idea wins. So Flanders gave me the opportunity to be the GM for Flanders, Peru. So I was in charge of the team introducing autonomy for drills in Peru. And it was truly rewarding to put in practice everything we talked about in the past, remember? And, you know, building this team, this camaraderie, but making sure that the best idea wins, no matter who the idea comes from.
Yep.
Is something really, really impactful in your team. Like we would have meetings, you know, with the techs, with all the team members, and we would say, okay, what's the solution? And somebody would say, this is the solution. And no matter if it was, you know, an engineer, a technician, or, you know, a guy from logistics, if that was the best idea, that's what we were going to do. So everything Wayne said, plus, you know, the best idea wins.
I love it.
Somebody have to choose, usually those chooses, but it's about making sure that people was heard and they understand that somehow this is the best idea.
That's awesome. And since we're on kind of the topic of, you know, employees, careers, you know, something I always like to ask everybody is, you know, folks are not super familiar with, if you're not the energy industry, you're not the mining, oil and gas industry. You know, we talked about it kind of earlier. We get painted with these broad strokes, and folks don't think about mining, okay, and go automation, electrification, hybridization, digital, you know, all the buzzwords, right? But, you know, I almost say, like, if I were a young person today looking at an area that I wanted to potentially grow into, it really is these markets, because I feel like there's so much more that's actually being done in our industries that is not talked about. And people aren't sharing like with young folks, because you brought up earlier, Wayne, electricians are very difficult to come by. Mechanics, technicians, people that want to solve problems, get up in the morning and just go and do the best. I'm obviously grateful to be able to have those folks on our respective businesses and teams. But what would you say to a young person that's considering going from college, trade school, whatever it may be, and evaluating, is a company like Flanders, is a company that's related to mining, oil and gas, the right place for me to make my career?
Boy, I tell you, I could not encourage more people to get into oil and gas and mining. Everybody uses the energy in these commodities. Everybody. Even those protesters. They're using the very thing that we mine or the energy we produce to do the protesting, to get on the train and get there. We all need it. It makes everything else go. So you're doing something that's going to be around forever, and we need it. And the career opportunities and the life experiences are tremendous. You get to work with people around the world because the whole world needs energy. Yep. The whole world needs copper and gold. And this is the way it works.
Yep.
I have a daughter. I'm trying to encourage her to get into this. No matter your walk of life, you get to be embraced here. If you're in the club of we're doing this for the rest of the world, you're part of the team.
Yep.
How exciting. And I would also encourage them to listen. If someone invites them into this, give it a listen. Don't just take first blush. I've had many people come to me and say, well, that's not good for the environment. Are you kidding? We're doing wonderful things for the environment. We absolutely are. Come hear the story. Listen to that person. And if they're willing to sponsor you a little bit, share openly if you have any concerns, because there's a whole world waiting for you out there where you can contribute in meaningful ways that I just got to believe you're going to find some of the most rewarding things in your life you get to do.
Plus, I mean, the benefit, if you worked at like Google, you don't really get to go to other countries unless you're maybe lucky. I mean, you guys,
at the places to go with mining and oil and gas.
Yeah.
We go to remote areas that, you see life in a different way after being there. So that's very special.
It is. It gives you a worldly kind of view about, where things actually exist. Because I think that's something that we're very, folks born in the United States, we got it pretty lucky and easy.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's a lot of things that we could, instead of being upset about, be very, very fortunate, grateful, but fortunate, right?
Yes.
And that's one thing that throughout, I can appreciate probably in your guys' careers, had the ability to go to places and go, you know what? We get in the attitude of gratitude because we got it pretty damn good.
That's for sure. I've even brought my family to many places.
You brought them to Peru.
I brought them to Peru to help some of the very impoverished people there. And you do get the gratitude. One day I'll retire, and yes, I might be proud of a few accomplishments, but I'm proud or blessed that when I look at my phone, I've got friends around the world. I get texts, in different languages all over. And I'm so happy that I got to engage with those people and blessed to. And when you can help each other out, what more is there in life?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Same question thrown at you, Walter. What would you give advice-wise to a young person evaluating whether come work for Flanders or get in one of the industries we've been talking about?
Sure. I think young folks need to think about, what do I like? I for sure love the digital world. But in my case, I love doing something that I call for real, right, with my hands. And if that's you, this is an industry in which you will flourish. You see the things you are working on. My wife says, particularly men are kids with big toys. And I relate to that, right?
Definitely.
A mining truck is a big toy, man, and you enjoy it. And, you see the truck going faster, man.
Yes.
And if you like that stuff, this is the industry to be in. Same with oil and gas, right? You see the pumping, you see,
yes,
the energy flowing. So
visceral connection.
Yeah, exactly. So if you like that, this is your industry.
I love it. Wayne, you started touching on kind of one thing I like to do at the end of the podcast is talk about, look, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And, we're all very fortunate. What are some things you do to give back, or a shameless plug, I like to call it? It's something you do to help out the community or, give back to folks.
So I love yoga.
Okay.
And I sort of got into it. I was in gymnastics and wrestling, and you do a lot of stretching and poses and whatnot. And I naturally, someone asked if I could fill in and teach their yoga class. I got into it. So I do a lot of work with that. I've volunteered for prison work, for churches, fundraisers, taught classes. So I like that. It's a great opportunity for me to do what I like and also help other people. Flanders, they're a really humble group of people. They've got some ways they give back too. We've got this wishing well. It's about the size of this coffee table. Okay. And even if it's not a officially recognized charitable organization, if there's a need in community, it could be one of our own, it could be somebody in the community, they'll put that out there and people start throwing cash in it. And that gets out to them. If there's, at Christmas, we collect toys. And it's overwhelming to see how much Flanders people contribute, driving these truckload after truckload in. It's just great to be part of that type of team.
That's awesome. It's got to give back, not only as individuals, as businesses too. Both. There's a lot to be able to spread around, to say the least.
There sure is.
Walter, what about yourself?
Well, I help whenever I can, and I subscribe to this community to which I give a small monthly amount, but I feel I'm making something, right?
Yeah.
I hope that in the future I can collaborate with more, but for now, I need amount every month.
I love it. Guys, it's been a fantastic conversation. And folks, I want you to do me a favor and look up Flanders. Walter, Wayne, if you guys could kind of drop your guys' website, you on LinkedIn, you guys on LinkedIn as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. So check out if somebody wanted to go to your website, what do? They Google you. You got the website address?
FlandersInc.com.
Okay.
If they were to type Flanders Electric, they'd see us.
Okay. Awesome. Same thing for LinkedIn as well?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And we'll go ahead and drop some LinkedIn profiles. And guys, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you making it out here, Wayne, especially with the storm. Thank you very much for the gifts as well.
Well, you're welcome.
And folks, appreciate you joining the Energy Espresso. Let's keep energy energized, and we'll talk to you next time.